The war had ended. Humans had lost. At least that's what the Galactic Alliance believed. The planet Elter-9 was now nothing but black dust. It had been bombed from orbit. Firestorms had burned every forest, and every building had fallen. The sky was still filled with smoke. Thousands of enemy soldiers had walked through its ruins, checking for survivors. They found none, or so they thought. But then, they found him. A single human. Alone. Sitting near a burnt transport ship. His skin was burned, his clothes torn, but his eyes were calm. He was not hiding. He was not running. He sat. In silence, waiting. The alien soldiers surrounded him, weapons pointed at his head. He did not fight, simply raised his hands and whispered, "Is the war over?" They were afraid to answer. No human should have survived that attack, not after the planet was turned to ash. They brought him to the prison ship and gave him the name Prisoner Zero. Captain Veln of the Galactic Alliance had fought in 10 wars. He had seen many species fight, scream, beg, or die. But this human was different. He was quiet. He did not scream when locked in a small, cold cell. He did not beg when food was late. He just waited. Other prisoners whispered stories about him. They say he walked through fire to reach a bunker. Now I heard he was hit by a plasma bomb and kept walking. Someone saw him carry 3 soldiers on his back during the attack. Some guards laughed. But not all. One guard, a young alien named Tarek, watched the human every night through the camera. And one night, Tarek saw something strange. The human alone in his dark cell sat on the floor. His back was straight, his hands on his knees. For hours, he didn't move then. Slowly, he began to cry. No sound.
Ow.
No yelling. Just tears running down his face. Tarek leaned closer to the screen. Why was he crying? He had survived the worst bombing in history. He hadn't screamed when they beat him. He hadn't begged when they starved him. But now, he cried. Tarek checked the cell logs. No one had spoken to him. Now nothing had happened. That day, so what was he crying for? The next morning, the human was calm again. He stood when ordered, ate his food without complaint, returned to his cell. No one believed Tarek when he told them. He was crying, Tarek said. For what? Another guard laughed. Humans don't cry, they kill. Tarek didn't reply, but he couldn't forget what he saw. The tears weren't from pain. They were from something else. Loss. The prison warden, a large insectoid named Gorok, grew worried. The human had become a mystery. Even though he was locked in a deep, windowless cell, other prisoners began asking about him. He survived Elter-9, they said. Maybe he knows something the rest of us don't. Soon the human became a symbol, not of power, not of fear, but of something else. Endurance. The Alliance didn't like this. They decided to send in a mind reader from the Zell species. These aliens could touch a brain and see its memories. The Zell walked into the cell. The human sat quietly. When the Zell placed his fingers on the human's forehead, everyone watching expected screams. Resistance or collapse. Instead, the Zell pulled away within seconds. He was shaking. His eyes were wide. "What did you see?" the guards asked. The Zell whispered, "Fire, screams, pain. He should be broken, but what?" The warden growled, "He is not." The Zell turned to the screen and said something no one expected. "He has lost everything. Family, friends, his planet. Yet he still hopes. He still believes he will return home one day." Everyone fell silent. That night, more guards watched the camera. The human was once again sitting still in the center of his cell. His face calm, but his eyes tired. He looked at the camera for the first time, then he smiled. It wasn't a smile of victory. It wasn't a smile of joy. It was soft. Like he was thinking of something warm far away. And for the first time, the guards were not afraid of him. They were afraid of what he represented. A human who would not die. A man carried pain like armor. A soldier who could survive the end of his world. And still smile? The galaxy had never seen such a thing. Some called him a weapon. Others called him a ghost. But soon, they would all learn. He was just the beginning. The human sat in his cell, day after day, silent, watching. No one knew his real name. The guards called him Prisoner Zero, but in secret. Others had begun calling him something else, the Unbreakable. The Galactic Alliance wanted to know his secret. What made him survive when millions died? What made him so calm after such a terrible war? They brought in an interrogator, a cruel alien with silver eyes and a long voice. His name was Kareth. He didn't believe in kindness. He believed in pain. They showed the human videos on a large screen. Earth burning, oceans boiling, cities crushed by bombs, mountains falling, people screaming, children, mothers, soldiers gone. Korath stood proudly behind the human. "This is what we did to your home," he said coldly. "We erased it, every tree, every city, every voice, worth as dust." The human did not move. He stared at the screen for a long time. The flames, the fire. The end of everything he knew. Kareth leaned close and asked, "Do you feel anything?" Still, no reply. Kareth tried harder. "Your species lost. There is nothing left. You are the last." Silence. Finally, the human whispered one word. "Hope." I froze. "What?" The human turned to him and said, louder this time, "As long as one of us lives, we have not lost. We carry our world inside us." The word hope began to spread. Other prisoners heard it. Even some guards heard it. It was strange. Most prisoners cried for food or freedom. But the human cried for nothing. He only spoke about hope. One day, a technician cleaning the room asked the human, "Why don't you hate us?" The human looked at him. Not with anger, but with tired eyes. "You're not the one who gave the order," he said. "You just follow. It may be one day you'll choose to stop." The technician said nothing. But that night, he couldn't sleep. Inside the control room, Captain Veln watched the human every day. He drank strong black liquid from his cup and stared at the screens. "I don't understand," he said to his assistant. "We bombed his planet. We killed his people. And he sits there like he's waiting for a bus." The assistant replied, Maybe he believes someone is coming." "Coming," Veln scoffed.
Ow.
"No one's coming. Earth is gone." But deep down, a strange question was growing inside Veln. What if he's right? In a dark part of the prison, a small group of alien prisoners sat in a circle. They had heard the rumors about a man who had seen the end, and still stood. One of them asked, "Do you think it's true? The humans can't be broken?" Another replied, "I don't know, but I heard he walked across 40 miles of fire just to send a message." "What message?" The answer was soft. "Earth, we are not done." Later that week, a young alien officer sneaked a small communicator into the human cell. It had no signal, just old recordings. She said this was taken from a human ship before the war ended, and she left. The human picked it up, turned it on, and heard a voice. A woman's voice. "Calm, strong, this is Earth Command. If you are hearing this, it means we lost the battle, but not the war. If even one of us survives, remember this, we are not done." Tears fell down the human's face. He wasn't crying from pain. Not fear, not anger. He cried because someone had left a message. Not to fight, not to kill, but to continue that night. Tarek the guard returned to the camera room. He looked at the human, who now held the communicator close to his heart. Tarek whispered, "He's not here to escape." Another guard asked, "Then why?" Tarek replied, "He's here to remind us who we used to be." The galaxy had always feared humans for their strength, but now it began to fear something more, their heart. The galaxy was watching. Everyone knew about the human in Cell 17 now. Some called him Invincible. Some called him the Last Flame. But to most, he was a mystery. He had not escaped. He had not fought back. Yet entire worlds were starting to change. Just because he stayed. One night, everything changed again. The sky above the prison ship turned red. Sirens screamed. Lights went out, and a single word echoed through the speakers. Attack. A rival alien empire, the Drac had launched a surprise strike. They hated both, humans and the Galactic Alliance. They wanted chaos. They came with fire, bombs, and machines. They wanted to destroy the prison. And everyone inside, Captain. Velen rushed to the control deck. Shields down. Systems offline. We can't hold. Explosions rocked the ship. Screams filled the halls. Guards ran. Prisoners panicked. Lights flickered deep inside. Cell 17 shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The human stood slowly. No alarms reached him, but he already knew war had returned. Suddenly, young guard Tarek opened the door. He was shaking. They'd broken through. Everyone's running. You can escape now. Human stared at him. You opened my door. Tarek nodded. You saved my mind. I'll save your life. The human stepped out, then stopped. He looked down the hallway. Smoke, fire, screams. Then, he turned the other way. Tarek shouted, "The exit's that way." The human replied, "I know, but I'm going to help the ones who can't run." In the burning halls, chaos ruled. An explosion tore through the east wing. A guard lay under metal, screaming, trapped. Everyone ran past him except one man, the human. He lifted the metal beam with burned arms and pulled the guard out. The guard gasped, "Why? After what we did to you?" The human said nothing. He just smiled and ran toward the next scream in the infirmary. Smoke filled the air. A child, Lura, the same girl who once gave him candy, was trapped under a broken table. The human smashed through the wall. He coughed from the smoke. His eyes burned. He picked up Lura gently and carried her out, covering her with his body as fire followed behind. When they reached safety, she opened her eyes and whispered, "You came back." He nodded. Double quotes always. The battle raged for hours. Drac soldiers found Cell 17 empty, but their cameras showed a strange sight. A human running into danger, carrying the wounded, fighting fire, shielding others. One Drac officer asked, "Is that the prisoner?" His commander replied, "No, that's something else." When the battle finally ended, the Drac ships retreated. They had taken heavy losses, but the prison ship was still flying barely, and in the center of it all was the human, bruised, bleeding, alive. Captain Velen approached him. "I saw the footage," he said quietly. "You saved dozens. The people who once hurt you, guards who beat you, scientists who tested you." Human simply replied, "They needed help, that's enough." Velen looked away, ashamed. "We didn't deserve it." The human's answer was soft. "That's never been the point." The next day, the galaxy saw something it never expected. A live broadcast from the prison, showing footage of the human saving lives. No weapons, no orders, just a choice. Billions. Watched, some wept, some knelt, some tore down war posters. One message, spread across every screen: humanity is not a threat. Humanity is the reminder of what we forgot to be. And the stars would never be the same. The prison was quiet, not because of fear, but because of respect. After the attack, after the fire, after the humans saved lives, no one saw him the same way again. He was no longer called Prisoner Zero. No longer called a monster now. They called him something else. The reminder. He sat once again in his old cell, door unlocked, no guards. But he stayed anyway. Tarek came to him and said, "You're free. You can leave." The human looked out through the small window toward the stars. "I will, but not yet." Far across the galaxy, Earth had returned. The human signal had reached deep space. A human fleet, survivors who escaped before the planet fell, had seen everything. They saw the broadcasts, they saw the stories, they saw him one day. A ship arrived, sleek, silver, human dash made. Its engines hummed with a familiar sound. When it landed, soldiers stepped out in old Earth armor. One of them, a woman with short gray hair, walked toward the cell. She smiled when she saw him. "Name?" she asked. The human stood. Captain Eli Ward, Earthborn. She saluted. You're coming home, Captain. But Eli looked around. He saw the prisoners, the guards, the people who once feared him. Now standing silently, some looked ashamed. Some looked hopeful. All were watching. He turned to the human commander. The woman blinked. The woman blinked. You've been imprisoned, tortured, nearly killed. You don't owe them anything. No. Smiled. That's the difference between us and them. We help. Even when we don't have to. She paused, then nodded. Then Earth will wait. In the weeks that followed, something strange happened. Eli stayed on the station, not as a prisoner, but as a teacher. He gave talks, told stories, showed aliens how humans healed, how they grieved, how they forgave. He planted a small seed from Earth in the prison garden. It began to grow. The first green thing ever seen there. Soon, peace talks began. Old enemies reached out. We want to speak to a human, they said, not a soldier, a heart. And always the reply was, we already have one. One day a reporter from a neutral planet visited and asked, why didn't you run? Eli answered, because running saves one life, but staying saved many minds. Across the stars, alien children learned a new story in school, not of war, not of fear, but of a man in a broken cell who smiled at a child, who forgave his captors, who stayed behind, not for revenge, but to teach love, and carved in the prison wall later turned into a museum were his final words before returning home. We are human. We break, we fall, we bleed, but we rise again and again. Because we don't fight to win. We fight for each other. The galaxy never forgot. And on many planets, when people speak of strength, they no longer think of weapons. They think of the human who stayed. The prison was cold, silent, and full of fear. Most prisoners stayed away from cell 17. That was where the human lived. The one who had survived the fall of Earth. They said he was dangerous. Some said he was more machine than man. Others believed he was a ghost, something that refused to die. But one little girl didn't believe the stories. Her name was Lura. She was only 7 cycles old. Her father worked as an engineer on the prison ship. Sometimes when he was busy, she followed him through the quiet halls. One day, she slipped away. Her tiny feet made no sound on the metal floor. She wandered into the lower prison levels, where few dared to go. She stopped in front of cell 17. The lights inside were dim. But she saw him, the human, sitting on the floor with his back against the wall. Eyes closed, he looked. Tired. Not angry, not scary, just tired. Lura walked closer. The door was locked, but the human opened his eyes. He saw her. She froze. For a moment neither moved. Then he smiled. A small, gentle smile. Lura stepped forward, pressed her tiny hand on the glass and asked, "Are you the monster?" The human tilted his head. "Is that what they told you?" "Yes," she said. "They said you burned planets and eat children." The human laughed softly, not loud, just a little breath. "No, I've never eaten a child." She looked unsure. "But you destroyed ships, killed soldiers." His smile faded. He nodded slowly. "I fought in a war. I did what I had to." "Do you miss your home?" she asked. He didn't answer right. "Away then," he said, "every second." Lura reached into her pocket. She pulled out a small round candy, green and shiny. "My favorite," she said. "You can have it." She placed it in the slot near the door. The human took it gently, like it was made of glass. He looked at it for a long time. "Thank you," he whispered. "It's the first gift I've received in months." She smiled. "You're not a monster. You're just sad." The human's eyes filled with tears, but he blinked them away. "Maybe you're right," he said. "Maybe I'm just..." Sad Lura sat on the floor across from the door. She asked him questions about Earth, about the sky, about oceans. He told her stories. Simple ones, about dogs chasing balls, about snow, about rain that smelled like life. She listened, wide-eyed. Then she said, "I want to visit Earth one day." The human looked down. "I hope you do. Maybe one day it'll live again." They sat there in silence, two worlds between them. Later. That night, Laura's father found her sleeping near cell 17. He panicked, pulled her away, and shouted at the guards. "Do you know what could have happened? That's a human." But Laura only said, "He's nice, told me stories." Her father didn't believe her. He told the officers. They checked the cameras. Some wanted to punish the human for speaking to the child, but when they watched the footage, something strange happened. The alien officers saw no anger in him, no hate, just kindness. He listened. He smiled. He gave stories to a child who knew nothing of war. The High Warden himself saw the tape, and he whispered, "This is not what I expected." News spread across the prison, not official news, but whispers. "Did you hear? A child spoke to the human. He didn't harm her. He gave her candy. She gave it to him." The story grew. Guards who once feared him now watched him differently. Some even nodded when passing his cell. Inside cell 17, the human sat with the candy in his hand. He hadn't eaten it. Not yet. To him, it was more than food. It was a memory, a piece of something good in a place, made of metal and pain, and far beyond the prison walls. Across the galaxy, someone posted the footage to the Black Channel's forbidden networks. Within hours, millions had seen it. A human, smiling, telling stories, accepting a gift, not a monster, not a killer, just a man. The galaxy began to ask, what kind of species fights like beasts, but still loves like children? And for the first time in a long time, they didn't laugh when they said the word human. The prison was no longer quiet. Something had changed. Ever since the child visited cell 17, the guards spoke in whispers. Some prisoners asked to see the human. Some guards stopped calling him names. Others just stared through the glass. In silence, but the High Council of the Galactic Alliance was not happy. They feared this human, more than ever, not because of his strength, but because of his influence. He wasn't killing. He wasn't escaping, but he was changing minds. So, they gave a new order: find out what makes the human unbreakable. A special team of scientists, doctors, and military minds arrived on the prison ship. They wore white armor, carried scanners and needles, and walked like machines. Their leader was a cold-eyed doctor named Dr. Vexel. He didn't believe in stories or kindness to him. The human was an object to study. They moved the human to a new room, underground, cold, and full of strange machines. The human said nothing. They strapped him to a chair. He didn't fight, didn't scream. They scanned his bones, his brain, his heart, but they found nothing strange. No. No implants. No implants. No armor under the skin. Just a normal human body. Dr. Vexel frowned. Then why didn't he die? Next came the experiments. They starved him. No food for 10 days. He grew weak, thin, but never begged. They froze the room below zero. Ice formed on the floor. His skin turned pale, but he did not shiver. They injected pain serum into his veins. His muscles locked. His heart raced, but still, no scream, only quiet breathing. One assistant cried during the 4th experiment. "He's not even angry," she whispered. "He's just tired." On the 20th day, Dr. Vexel stood before the human. "What are you made of?" he asked. The human finally looked up. His voice was dry but steady. "I'm made of pain. Loss, of fire, and love." Dr. Vexel laughed. "Love, that's not power." The human smiled, broken teeth, bruised skin, but still smiling. "You're wrong," he said. "Love is why I'm still here." The next day they scanned his heart. Again, it beat slowly but steady. The doctor muttered, "Impossible. His body is collapsing, but his mind, it stays clear." A younger scientist pulled up human records from Earth. She showed the team a war report, Human soldier pulled 3 friends from a burning tank. Another report. A nurse stayed behind in a collapsing hospital just to hold a patient's hand. A father shielded his family during an orbital blast. He died. They lived. Dr. Vexel grew pale. It's not just him, he whispered. It's all of them. Word spread again. The scientists who came to break the human had found something terrifying. There was no secret weapon, no hidden machine. The human's strength came from inside, from something the galaxy had forgotten. Back in his cell, the human lay on the floor. His body ached. His mind was heavy. But when a small guard walked by and whispered, "Are you okay?" he opened his eyes and gave a soft nod. Still here? Still alive? Captain Veln watched all of it from the command room. He spoke to his assistant. "We did everything, and he's still human." The assistant replied, "Maybe that's the part we can't beat." Council demanded one final test. Dr. Vexel placed a device in the human's brain. It showed memories on a screen. The entire prison watched. The screen showed Earth. Children running in parks, rain falling on windows, old people laughing at stories. Then war, bombs, screams, fire. But the last image was simple. A hand holding another, not letting go. One alien whispered, "We thought they were monsters." Another said, "No, they just loved harder than we did." And now, for the first time in history, aliens felt ashamed. The human was no longer just a prisoner. He was now a symbol. Guards watched him more closely, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Prisoners spoke his name in quiet voices. Some called him the survivor. Others said the flame that won't go out. Even the doctors stopped their experiments. They had no answers. The reports all said the same thing. He should have broken, but he didn't. Inside cell 17, the human sat quietly, bruised, tired, alive. He still had the candy the child had given him, kept it in a small corner, is protected like a treasure. Sometimes he would look at it and smile. Elsewhere in the prison, things were changing. A young guard named Tarek had once watched the human through cameras. Now he visited in person. He would sit outside the cell during his break and ask questions. What does snow feel like? What's a dog? Do you really miss Earth? The human answered every question. He never lied, never yelled. And slowly, Tarek stopped seeing a prisoner. He saw a man. Then something happened. A message was sent from the Alliance High Council. If the human continues to influence the prison, terminate him quietly. Captain Veln received the message. His hand shook. He had followed every order in every war. But now, he looked at the footage. The human sharing stories with a child, surviving the worst pain, sitting quietly in the dark. Terminate him. Veln didn't answer right away. Down in the prison, a new group was forming. Aliens. Different species, different pasts. But they shared one thing now. Respect for the human. They met in secret. A warrior named Zura, a nurse named Keek, and even a former spy called Mern. Zura said, "I once fought humans. I feared them. Now I respect them." Mern whispered, "I heard the council wants him dead." Keek clenched her hands. "We cannot let that happen." They all agreed. "We help him. Escape." One night, the plan began. Zura distracted the guards. Mern hacked the door systems. Keek brought supplies. They reached cell 17. The door opened. The human looked up, surprised. Suyura spoke fast. "You're not safe. The Alliance wants you gone. We're getting you out." But the human didn't move. He just stared at them. Mern frowned. "Did you hear me? You'll be killed." The human nodded. "I know." Keek stepped forward. "Then why are you still sitting? Steady. Because if I escape, nothing changes. But if I stay, they'll keep watching." Zura growled. "You'll die here." The human stood slowly, painfully, but tall. He looked each of them in the eyes. "If I run, they will call me a coward, a threat, a trick. But if I stay, and they see I am just a man, maybe they will question what they've been told." The rebels stood frozen. No weapons, no orders, only his words. He stepped forward and gently placed the escape badge back in Zira's hand. "Thank you," he said. "But this isn't my fight, not here, not like this." Zira's voice cracked. "Then what is your fight?" He looked toward the walls, toward the cameras, toward the stars. To remind them what being human means. They left him. Not because they failed, but because they understood. The next morning, the guards checked. His cell, nothing was broken, nothing stolen. It never even tried to leave. Captain Velen watched the report, and for the first time in years, he smiled in the prison cafeteria. Someone left an extra piece of food near his tray in the hallway. A guard gave a quiet nod. Even prisoners who once hated him now looked with quiet respect. The human still didn't speak much, but his silence was louder than any speech, and across the galaxy, whispers grew stronger. The human could have run, but stayed. He could have fought, but chose peace. He could have hated, but chose hope. The prison had changed. Guards walked slower near cell 17. Prisoners spoke more softly, and Captain Velen. He spent more time staring at the screen than giving orders. Everyone felt it. The human was not just a prisoner anymore. He was a message, far away. Deep in the Galactic Alliance Council Tower, leaders argued, we destroyed their planet. Crushed their army. Why is this one human still a threat? One voice spoke calmly, because we don't understand what makes him strong. The council sent one final team. It's the best minds in alien science. Not to hurt him, not to break him, but to understand him, they called it. Project Core. Their goal: find the weapon inside the human, the thing we cannot see. The new scientists scanned him again. Every bone, every cell, every nerve, nothing. They ran DNA tests. Normal. They checked his blood, muscles, reflexes. Still, nothing special. But then one quiet scientist, a small creature named Rin, asked something strange. "What? If the weapon isn't in his body?" She said. The others laughed. "Then where?" Rin pointed at the screen, showing the human sitting alone in his cell. "Maybe it's in what he believes." They tried something different. They gave the human paper and a pen. He wrote nothing. For 2 days, on the third day he drew something. The guards looked at it, confused. It was a small circle, with 5 stick figures holding hands. One word was written above it: family. Rin showed the drawing to the council. They didn't understand. "Is this a code?" one asked. "Is this a threat?" Another said. Arin shook her head. "It's what humans fight for. Not land, not money, but for each other." Back in his cell, the human spoke to Tarek the guard again. Tarek asked, "Why didn't you run when you had the chance?" The human smiled. "Because running helps me, staying helps them." Tarek asked, "Helps who?" "Shh, everyone watching," the human said. "Someone out there needs to see that a human didn't give up." That night, Tarek told his commander, he doesn't carry a weapon, he's the weapon. In a special meeting, the Alliance played a secret video footage from Earth, covered after the war. It showed humans helping each other during battles, soldiers shielding the weak, strangers pulling people from burning buildings. One alien general stood up. "This is madness. That's not strength, that's emotion." But Rin replied, "That is their strength. They fight because they care." Then someone in the room whispered the words now heard across the stars. "Humans love too deeply to die, easily." In the prison, the human kept to himself. He wrote more drawings. Each simple: a sun, a smile, a tree, no weapons, no plans, just memories. One guard collected the papers secretly and showed them to his daughter. The child asked, "Are these real?" "Yes," the guard said. "They are from a world we destroyed." And that night, for the first time, a message was broadcast not by the Alliance, but by a pirate signal across the galaxy. A message showing the humans' drawings. The final image was simple: a heart drawn in shaky lines and one sentence: "We may be broken, but we are not done." Across planets, alien civilians saw it. Some cried, some felt ashamed, Some began to question everything they were told. The Alliance couldn't stop the signal they had tried. Weapons. They had tried torture, but the one thing they couldn't break was hope. Because the humans' greatest weapon was never a gun. It was never armor. It was never strength. It was belief.